Hello Yelliates. So we've already done the details for the top of our bottle. Today I'm just going to show you how to add details to the bottom as well, and just in case you're not sure where to start and how to get the accuracy in. So I'm just going to start off, got a line in between it so I know how to kind of keep that symmetrical. And I'm just going to start off by drawing some guidelines in from the top and bottom and the sides, and how far and big I need this oval to be. So I'm just going to go ahead, and if you need to draw more guidelines, that's fine too, or you can just go straight into it and just start sketching out that outline. Make sure you keep your pencil pressure nice and light so that you can rub out any mistakes as you make along, and you want to make as many mistakes so that it helps you kind of guide your next moves as well. So I'm just going to go ahead, keep my pencil pressure nice and light. Look how I'm holding the pencil nice and loose, and I'm going to go ahead and just draw that. Take your time with this as well. Even though it's something so basic, it is important that you have a good shape that you're working with, so that you feel confident while you're adding some details between that as well. Now if I look at this shape, I'm quite okay with it, I'm quite happy with it. Any areas that you're not happy with, rub it out and just go ahead and take your time. Make sure you practice that pencil pressure being light. Now if I look at this bottle and on the edge, there is a little bit of some space just between it. So I'm going to draw a line around it. It's a form of guideline. And now it's not all over the place, but I do need some space in between that. So I'm going to go ahead, rub any extra lines out that I don't need, go back in and just draw a faint, using a faint line, faint pencil pressure, just a faint line, just so you know where everything needs to be. We're not adding any shades to our work, and that I'm going to show you with our final piece as well. So this is how we're going to go ahead with our work. So we're not adding any shading as we work along, even though we're going to add some shades in certain sections. When we add some color pencils to our work as well, we will not be adding, we don't want the pencil marks to be there. So make sure your pencil pressure is nice and light. I'm going to continue on with this now, okay? And that's why it's so important that you keep your pencil pressure nice and light. Take your time, use the guidelines with the lines that you've already drawn, and kind of work with that section by section. If you're making mistakes, rub the whole section out if you want, if it helps, and go ahead and draw that. Okay, quite happy with that. I'm going to move on now. I'm going to make sure it's nice and clear for you guys to see as well. I'm going to now move on to adding some details between that. A lot of you are asking, well, how do we go about adding the text? And all I'm going to do is start sectioning it. There's 1, 2, 3 parts to this, so I'm going to figure out where I want everything to be. So I've got this little proportion here. I'm just going to go ahead and draw a little bit of a curve. I do the same thing at the bottom. I'm just going to mirror that at the bottom. Enough space in between. And I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. Now that I've got these two proportions in, I might bring that slightly higher, just slightly, so that my curiosity color has enough space. So again, guidelines are really important. Take your time to map it out so that you are really confident going in with the extra details. Now that I'm really happy with that, I'm just going to look at the curve of this, and it's against the curve of the line just below it. So what I'm going to do is just draw that curve, and I'm just going to mirror that curve underneath with a bit of space where I think the Fentiman text is going to then go. Okay, quite happy with that. I want it to go up until this point, until this point. And when you're happy with that, just start counting letters. So how many letters have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got a 9, so I'm going to split it by 3. Just some quick division there. If I split it by 3, and I split the 3 sections by 3, that should give me enough space for all the letters. If they're not equal, just go ahead and change it around a little bit. Make sure you keep it nice and light. Now that I've got that section in, I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing for the botanical brood. Just going to draw some guidelines and lines. Now you don't have to do it for every single part. I'm going to show you how to demonstrate. I'm going to demonstrate how I'm going to use those grids to kind of help write all the text as well. So even if you don't know how to do bubble writing, that's okay. Just start off by writing the letter itself. And you can use this, make sure you've got a sharp pencil to do it. and your pencil pressure is just slightly dark, with a sharp pencil. Go in. I'm rubbing it out because my pencil is not actually as dark as I would like it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and sharpen my pencil now and make sure it's nice and sharp. So now if I add details now, I'll get a nice crisp line, and that's what I want. A lot better, and with very little effort I can go ahead and start sculpting out my letters. That's a lot better. And I'm going to move on to my E and go ahead, make sure I spread my letters as well because I've got the space. Spread it along, kind of copy what I see. There's some shapes around the letters as well that I want to mimic. So I'm going to go ahead. If it looks funny and you don't like it, go ahead and just tweak it up a little bit. I'm going to make it a little bit slimmer. But if you're happy, just move on. Just make sure that you are looking at the text as you do it. Don't do it too much from memory because your work starts to look like something from imagination, because it won't mirror the same qualities as the real image that you're working from, and we are working from a photograph. So just add that eye, and that eye is quite centered, and I'm going to do the M. And you got the A. N. I'm whizzing by so you guys can see, just that you can take your time with this. I am doing it very quickly. You do not have to do it as quickly as I am. If you take your time, you can get a lot more accuracy in, and it starts to look really, really good. So I'm just going to do that S again because I rushed it a bit too much. And also, if it's awkward for you to do move it around. Just because sometimes it's easier to work in an angle when you can kind of see it better, but also your pencil and your hand isn't too awkward. So I'm going to go ahead, do that S. Okay. If you're going to go straight into doing the letters, that's fine as well. Just make sure that you are quite happy with where it's kind of going as well. So this is how well you can do your accuracy. You can count the letters and then divide it the same way and kind of go ahead. Or, because it's so small, you can actually just go ahead and write the letters as they are. So I'm going to go ahead and do just that. Very, very small. Oop, I didn't spell that right. Got the A. So Britannic, curry, brood, and I've got that there. Now I'm just going to rub these lines out because I don't really need them there, and I'm just going to copy the pattern that I see as well. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Just going to draw those two lines, and then I'm going to have a line kind of swerving out from there. Okay, if you don't like it, just go ahead and change it. I'm going to leave it alone for now, and I will go ahead and bubble it up a bit. You can go in and just rub some lines out, but I'm going to leave it as it is, because remember what I said about the colour pencils as well. You are going to add some shadings using pencils, and when it comes to the colour pencils, you want to make sure your pencil pressure is nice and light. So I will rub it out closer to time if I need to. Some of the sections, depending on what I do, kind of how I split it up, I will be rubbing sections out and just redoing it in colour as I do it. If I do it all now, it'll be really hard to do it in colour, and I need to go back and forth a bit. So now I'm going to move on to the bottom. But what I have to do is just kind of bring this a little bit lower. And the top, if you look at this curve goes into this little scroll looking thing. So what I need to do is bring this slightly lower, bring it with that curve, and this is as high as it's going to go. So I need to mark off how far I need it to go before it starts to curve. So I like it to go here, I like it to curve here, and the same thing here. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. Just going to go ahead and bubble it up a bit, just so that it mimics it really well as to the actual photo as well. So I am working very, very small, and it's hard to see all the details. It's not looking perfect, but it will start to mimic what I see, and it's all just about training our eyes and training our hand and getting used to where things need to go. So I'm going to go ahead and connect that line with this line, and if anything else is in between, that little faint line underneath it, can rub it out. Ooh, can rub that out as well. Rub any extra lines out just so you're clear on where your image is and how you need to go about it. If there's too many shadows in between and you don't like that, you want it nice and clear, because that's what we're aiming for. We want a nice clear outline. Then all I'm going to do here is just follow this line all the way up here, and I'm going to just double that up a bit. It's going to be a little bit longer. I don't have to go all the way. I will be rubbing that out. That's okay. Okay. Going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Make sure your pencil is actually really sharp for this. You won't be needing to press it too much, but you do need a sharp pencil to kind of help you form that together. Just to make sure that that little line is super thin, and I just don't necessarily go all the way, but that should be fine. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to connect this with this, rub that little corner out because there is a bit of division. This is if you want to get it absolutely crystal detailed, really detailed. I'm quite happy with the way the top is. I do need to write served chill. I'm just going to leave a little bit of space there to go ahead and write that in. So I'm going to write it really, really small. Served chilled. Because you can't bubble everything up and it's going to be too difficult, so we're not even going to bother doing that. There's no need. Okay, now I can do the same thing at the bottom, and I'm just going to whiz through it. You can keep watching, or you can skip ahead and just see how it's turning out, and just see how I'm taking my time to kind of build that in. So I've got the full flavor here, and then I've got these patterns underneath it. Now I need to give a little bit more space for the full flavor part. So what I'm going to do is just drop it a little bit lower. I'm going to double this line up, because when I get to do that with colour as well, if I get to use colour pencils in these areas, it's going to look really, really neat as well. Just working on other areas of my bottle just to kind of keep my attention kind of spread out, so I'm not focusing on one thing at a time. It will get a bit too overwhelming. So I'm just going to go ahead and think about where I want the full flavour to go. There, that's fine. I'm going to add the dots and just do the full flavor, and I'm going to go ahead, even though it's not in the middle, if you don't like that, just rub it out and go ahead, just go ahead and try to get it to fit. So I'm just going to do it a little bit smaller, full flavor, and then I'm going to draw the little flower patterns underneath it, and then have that little wispy mark. Now before you do that, do rub it out, the line underneath the guidelines that we've got. So that you don't have that there, because otherwise it will rub all that out. and you don't want all your details to rub out as you're working through the next part. So rub out as you work through it. Now I've got the Curiosity Cola to be put here, and I'm just going to do the same thing with the guidelines. Look how I use these lines and these boxes to kind of help marginalize where everything needs to go. Now I've got that space there placed, it's perfectly fine. Right guys, I'm just going to continue just doing the Curiosity Cola part as well. I'm just going to block that off so there's enough space. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Do the same thing. If I do 3 parts and I divide those 3 parts with another 3 parts, then I should get 9. So if you're not sure, count the letters and then divide it by however many, just to kind of create those boxes really quickly. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the cola. I'm just going to leave a little margin so I'm not going over it. Do the same thing. You've got 4 letters there, that's the middle, and I'm going to divide those in the following as well. Now take your time. I'm just going to go ahead and whiz through and just draw the letters as I see it. Just take your time. If you've never done bubble writing, it's best to do in a box anyway. Kind of helps you form them more accurately. If they come out wobbly and wonky looking like that and they're not accurate, don't worry about it. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect, but it's just to kind of get you into that mindset like we mentioned. So got the I, got the O, S, bit of a spread out S, isn't it? I, you've got a T, and you've got a Y. And I'm going to do the same thing for the cola. There you go. Now you can rub out those margins as well, that's fine. I'm not going to do all of them, but I will just rub out the edges there, just so that I can see where everything's laid. Anything's a bit too obvious and there's enough space for me to rub it out, I'll go rub it out. But I'm going to leave it, otherwise it's fine. I am just going to just draw in that bottom line there. And then just right underneath there, I'm going to just draw another line and go ahead and join this up. So I'm just going to rub that middle line off. Don't need that anymore. I'm just going to join that in. I'm not making it too dark, but I am making it prominent, and I'm making sure my pencil's actually sharp for this. Then I've got two texts. I've got 2 lines over here for texts, and before I move on with that, I do need to make sure that there's some space between that. If you look at the black sticker, but on the edge there's a yellow outline. Now I need to mimic that outline before I move on, just because then I can work within my margins. I'm going to very carefully, with steady hands, just go ahead and do that. Okay, if it goes a bit wobbly, simply because it's not straight, go ahead, draw your lines out again. Move your need to, just to kind of get a little bit more comfortable, that's perfectly fine. So now that I've done that, I'm going to draw those 2 lines, and I'm going to leave that there. And then I've got this curvy line. So actually, I'm not going to draw this bottom line, because if I use the top 2 lines, I can actually just use those for the text, and then I've got more space for this little exquisitely crafted here. I'm going to double that up there and then, keep your life easy, and draw these little curves in between that as well. You don't have to do all this, of course. This is if you want to add all these details. It will make your work look a lot more finished and put together doing that. And of course, if you've got so much detail and you're very carefully constructing it, you're not rushing it, and I can see that you've taken your time, even more so with me, then that allows you to kind of get higher marks as well. So any students that is trying to attempt this and doing a really good job, making sure they use a sharp pencil to kind of construct all their lines, will be definitely aiming towards a 7, if not more. So I'm just going to write I'm not going to count all the letters, it's way too small, but I am just going to go ahead and mimic what I see. To put all the spelling in, I wrote T instead of an I. Again, no one's going to notice. I'm going to do an I, a T, E, L, Y, crafted. And then I'm just going to write the letters on top that are missing as well. So if you can't see everything and it's not too clear, that's fine. Just draw what you see. That's the whole beauty of it. If you don't know what's kind of said or spelt, you just try your best and just write what you can see for now. I'm going to rush through this one because it's lowercase, which is nice. Cola and drink with natural. I'm going to write natural extracts. I'm just going to paraphrase it here, and that should be fine. I'm just going to recorrect the shape for round. Again, we're not adding any shadings to your work. And if you've not been tracing this whole time, for you to add this amount of detail, you do need some time. You can see it took me 20 minutes to do it. You can whiz through this video, you don't have to watch all of it, but it's just to kind of give you a guideline and rough idea, just how long you need, just to carefully kind of go through. If I don't talk and just do, it does take a lot less, but ideally we're aiming to kind of have that done, which is enough time for you to finish it off as homework, or even to do it in class. You've got enough time to do it in class. Right guys, let's kind of stretch out a little bit. Just look at my overall image, my overall bottle. This is how it's looking so far. This is how it's looking so far, and I'm happy with it so far. It's okay. I'm just going to now move on to like gridding.